And I think,
Let me keep that.
and I think it would be beneficial. I think it would be beneficial if you added a little thing about you watch these birds fly.
Right. Uh-huh.
You know. You saw how they flew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
Because it's not a matter. See, the thing about it is that it's one thing for one guy to sit there and say, I do ABC. And it's another thing for someone else to say, you know what, that guy does ABC. See, I've never claimed to be a person who could fly hawks well. Other people have told me I fly hawks well. RICARDO, a variety of falconers, you know. I mean, I talked to Joe Terry when RICARDO wrote that preface to the book, and I said, don't you think that was an exaggeration? And he goes, Ed, I was there. I saw it. It was not an exaggeration.
Correct. So this question is not about if it's true or not, because today and days before I've seen your birds flying. So basically all this recording is not to prove or deny anything. This is just to help people who get curious in the way of flying falcons as you describe them, just to understand it better, and just probably for their own benefits and for the benefits of their birds, to avoid maybe some mistakes, not to make a shortcuts,
Right.
but just really deeper understand the complexity of the topic. And so, and as I said, that on my side, this falconry passion is, I suggested few angles of view on this, how to make a bird fly. One of them, like height of the pitch, practical aspects of this whole point of. Second, do we have to teach falcon flying high, or it just happens? And number three, well, if we have some active participation in making a bird flying higher, so what would be the factors, the most important things the falconer should consider on his way achieving that goal?
Well, I know that like back in the 1970s when I was flying birds, and I was always asked, you know, how do you get your birds to fly so high? I didn't know then what I know now. So my simple answer was just fly the hawk. Don't train it. Just fly it, you know. When you see the bird doing those types of things that fit your hawking situation, then serve it something it can kill. Don't try to be like Joe Blow, who flies his hawks a certain way. Don't be like Joe Blow, that he flies his hawks a different way. Fly your birds, watch it, pay attention to it, don't train it. And when the bird's doing something similar to what you'd like to see in the future, then you serve it something it can catch and kill. You don't serve it something that it can't catch. Not at the first. First serves a kill.
Right, so here I think as far as terminology, training, so what do you put into this word, don't train? Because some people will say, even the way, right, as you said just now, serve your bird what she can kill, let it do something. This also a sort of a trick. Well, by some people at least, this could be perceived as
training.
training.
And it is in some ways training. But the thing is, it's like what people do when they're actually actively mentally training the bird is that they call the bird back. They try to get the bird overhead. They try to make the bird do a trick in order to be served.
In other words, they project their vision of the flight in the sky even before the bird took off the fist.
Right.
They already draw the trajectory
Right.
of what they want to
They've
see.
they've already put parameters on what they want to see the bird do. And so, if I have a young falcon and it goes off maybe 400 yards, you know, which is basically 1,200 feet away from me. And maybe it's 200 feet up, but it's actively flying in the sky, pumping up, you know. It's not like the guy that trains it to the balloon. It's not like the guy that trains it to the kite. You see, those are training lessons.
Mhm.
They're also very good conditioning lessons. But the guy, a lot of people that fly their hawk to the balloon or the kite think they're training their bird to go up. When really what they're doing is conditioning the bird so that it can go up.
And they're training to go to that kite.
And they're training it to go to a spot. And so instead of the bird leading the fist with a predatory mindset, they're leading the fist with the feed me mindset.
Okay.
That's where I'll go to go get fed. Okay? So I've always had the idea that if you have a young bird and you've managed the bird and you've learned to understand the bird, then you know that a particular weight, particular, you know, gut condition, weight condition, time of day, the bird's ready.
And excuse me for interruption, I think here, just right now, popped up in my mind that probably this line between conditioning of flying hawk and training lies exactly in a goal of the flight. Letting your falcon go with a predatory mindset is flying. Letting your bird go to get fed is training.
Well, exactly right.
That's what
Exactly right. When the bird is at such a condition, whether it's weight or gut, and all the bird wants to do is eat, then you're training the bird. When you release a bird that is willing to chase, catch and kill, and learn, then that's flying. Okay?
That's good.
And so what happens is that you see people's birds who do the same thing every day. It's very predictable, and it may be 300 feet, it may be 1,000 feet. It's very predictable. And when you fly a hawk, it's unpredictable for a while. Because what you're doing is you're developing a relationship with the bird.
And you're learning the bird.
I'm learning the bird's learning about me, and we're creating a partnership. And I try to provide a situation with the bird where the bird, just like I said, first serve is a kill. For a long time, first serve is a kill. I don't frustrate my birds with having them chase things they can't kill. And then I don't call them back to the lure and rip them off from food so I can fly them again tomorrow. If you call the bird back to you, which I many times, like you saw last year in Wyoming, middle of November, I've got a wild-caught tercel peregrine, never been called the lure yet. And we just talked about it in the field. The bird's never seen a lure. We flew him, we didn't have anything for him to catch and kill, so let's see if he'll come to the lure. Well, he did. Why?
Because he trusts you.
Because he trusts. And he knows. It's not just trust, he knows. He's already connected the dots. That I'm throwing pigeons, I'm throwing ducks, I'm throwing pheasants, I'm doing whatever, and he's catching and killing them. And so if one day in the field he's unsuccessful, if I swing around a dead pigeon and throw it out on the ground, he's going to come to it. I don't need to train him to do that.
Okay. So
He knows that.
So as far as we kind of separated training from flying both theoretically and practically. So if we start with a fresh, well, trapped passage bird, as you've done many times, or you got a bird bred in captivity, and that's the first flights happening. So you start with the fist, as you described, and using somebody's help or bird launcher, or even just tether a bird. At what distance? 100, 200, what, depends on the, it doesn't matter?
It doesn't make much difference. I mean, the key that I look for is that in the very beginning, when I'm flying a bird off the fist out of the hood, is that, and I think the same thing goes with people that fly pigeon or fly kites, or they fly at the balloon. A young bird, when you first unhood it, because you've been feeding it, even a freshly trapped hawk, because you've been feeding it and you've got them down to weight, when you unhood them...
Tolerance weight.
What's that?
Tolerance weight.
At a tolerance weight, yeah. I mean, we can talk about,
Yeah,
you know, my vocabulary about how you do things, but I'm not a big fan of using training weight. I like tolerance weight, because what will the bird tolerate, okay? Well, when that bird is tolerating you, and you unhood it, the very first time you unhood it, they're going to look down at the fist. They're not going to be hunting.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be expecting something at the fist. They're going to look around to your right side, see if you got something in your hand. They're going to be looking down at the glove, because this is what they have been shown up to this point. Whether it's a trained hawk from captivity or whether it's a wild hawk, they're going to have that mindset. You've developed that mindset in the bird. So now you have to go to the next mindset.
So transition from the
A
training.
transition.
From training to hunting.
Well, from tolerating
Yes.
to hunting.
Yep.
See, they've tolerated you and they have a level of expectation. And when you unhood them and that expectation isn't met, but all of a sudden out there 20 feet away, 30 feet away, a pigeon comes out that's tethered to a releaser. Or you have a friend that throws a duck out that's on a tether. They have to be able to catch it. All of a sudden they see it, they bob their head, boom, they go get it. Okay? Now 2 or 3 times like that, and when you unhood it, the bird no longer looks at you, doesn't look at the fist. It starts searching for the opportunity. And searching for that opportunity is the mindset that you really want to see, because now you know that when that bird is out flying, it's hunting. It's hunting for that opportunity.
Okay. And we extend that range for the flights to kill to a certain limit, and then we reach consistent kills.
But what happens is that a lot of falconers go through exactly this process. And they do the off the fist out of the hood. They do the kite, they do the balloon. And they unhood the bird, and the bird looks up at the balloon, or the bird chucks out the kite, or the bird looks around for the pigeon. But then when they go to fly the bird, and the bird's out flying, and the bird's 80 feet off the ground, 200 yards away, they want to call the bird back. They want to get the bird in position.
And it goes back to training.
And it goes back to training. When in fact, all the bird really needs is opportunity. If it's 200 feet off the ground and 800 feet away, and something comes up, boom, 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 boom. And they're doing, this is like interval training for an athlete. They're putting everything into it. It's every bit as good as going to the balloon. And it supports the genetic drive of the bird. They like to chase. The desire to chase is greater than the desire to eat. That's why you'll have birds chase things and grab them and let them go and then knock them down and then go back up in the sky. The they're not really at the weight where they need to eat, but they're really willing to chase. And so these are the evaluations the falconer has to make. The falconer has to make a decision about, you know, is this bird serious about feeding itself, or is it just being a predator?
Okay.
Is it a dog chasing a car?
So at that point, once the mindset of both falconer and the bird is in that consistent compliance, bird is targeting the kill, falconer is not training but flying, we just let bird go, and there is no any more pigeon in a releaser. We probably may have pigeon in our bag, and the bird, as it used to look for an opportunity at certain range, goes, and then nothing happens. It's what? It's get driven by its genetic push to circle. It just naturally goes up.
Well, see, that depends on the bird. Deer falcons, from my experience of watching other people, because I've never flown them, but deer falcons, if you serve them, let's just say 200 feet high and a quarter mile away, and they race across the sky and catch something and kill it and eat it, they don't have the genetic drive to go higher because they have a motor.
Yeah, they can chase it for miles and
catch it. Right. Prairie falcons are sort of in between peregrines and deer falcons in that, you know, they may chase it, they can't get it, so then they'll try to go higher for the next opportunity. And peregrines are really driven, that if something flies out from underneath them, they'll go higher. Okay? But the real key is, okay, if you live in an area that is enclosed and what you need to catch game is 400 feet, then serve your bird when it's 400 feet, regardless of its distance from you. You don't need them 400 feet dead overhead. If you'll serve that bird when it's up in the sky as in accordance to what you need for your hawking, then most of those birds will key on that pitch, they'll key on the position from you, and they'll start chasing things.
But what about this, you know, well-known cone
Cone of command.
Yes, and like 45 degrees or whatever.
Right. Well, cone of command is one of those types of things where if you want your bird to kill, then you've stopped flying the hawk. You're back into training. Because all you need is patience. If you show your bird, regardless of what kind of bird it is, whether it's a red tail or a Cooper's hawk, if you show it opportunity within the framework of how you're going to be hawking, and that bird is not looking in the bag, it's not looking to you, but it's looking for opportunity. So that's the big key. The bird has to be looking for opportunity. That's what they do in the wild. They look for opportunity, and they explode with that sense of opportunity. Then your job is to continue to provide opportunity without the expectation of a kill. Because they will kill.
Yeah, so you focus basically your and bird attention on basically the appearance of the prey. What happens after that, that's up to the nature of the bird, her abilities and level of development.
Right. And the problem a lot of falconers have is that they want a 400-foot hawk when what they need is a 200-foot hawk. They want a 1,000-foot hawk when what they really need is a 600-foot hawk. And that's the misjudgment of the falconer. And I've told several people over the years, you know, if you have a problem with your bird, you need to talk to the man in the mirror. You know, there are no bad habits in the wild. These birds are programmed to be self-actualized avian predators. And you undermine that as a falconer by training them. You undermine that by trying to make them do a particular trick in order to be fed.
So the deeper you look into the problem, the sooner you'll find that you are a source of this problem.
You are the problem. The falconer is the problem. If you take the worst hawk, I don't care which one, Cooper's hawk, goshawk, red tail, you take the worst hawk and you let it go, within 2 weeks the bird will be a perfect predator, or it'll be dead. So the problem isn't the falcon, it's not the hawk, it's the falconer.
Yeah.
And so every time a falconer has an issue in the field, you should talk about, okay, what am I doing? How come it's not working? How come, what am I doing wrong? It's not like the falcon's not a dumb bitch, you know. The falcon isn't trying to pimp you. The falcon isn't being lazy. The falcon's doing what you've taught it to do to survive. And mainly because you cut its weight.
No, nature taught it to survive, but what you're trying to either help to manifest, or you actually creating an obstruction.
No, I don't think nature's trained it to survive.
But
Nature drives it to survive. You've trained it how to survive. You've trained it to survive by your manipulation, by your training.
Yeah.
I mean, you've watched over the last few days, you've watched these young birds I'm flying, and they're young, but what you see is that they go out and fly. They don't look to me.
Absolutely.
They go to the sky, and if they're far away, but they're going to the sky and I serve them, they come across the sky, they try to make a kill, they didn't get it. Okay? But that's later in their development. First serve's always a kill in the beginning, because that's what helps develop fidelity factor that I talked about in the book. You want the bird to be paying attention, but not looking in the bag. It's a fine line.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fine line. And you also saw with the two birds, one has been just a little bit too low. Not weak, but just a little too attentive, not quite as willing to go out. And the other one's been way more willing to go out.
Yeah.
And so weight management in that regard, gut management in that regard, is a problem I need to solve. It's not going to be solved by the scale. The scale just tells me where I'm going, you know. And so, as you increase the bird's weight, you see what they're doing. If the bird ends up having a slow day, not a good day, they don't want to fly, well, you know you flew the bird with too much food in its gut.
Or too weak.
Or too weak. And too much food in its gut equals a heavier weight on the scale, but it does not mean the bird is fat. It means that it's got too much food in its gut.
But here's one of the difficult, I guess, answers a falconer, whether it's a novice or even already experienced person, may face that, like when I got my Deer Peregrine from Steve Chindren, he didn't tell too much, but he said, look, Anatoly, one day you have to bring your bird to the situation whether she will kill and live or die. As soon as the bird realizes that thing, it just clicks but how to achieve that point without undermining the bird potential, because
well, I talk about that in the book a little bit, about being touched on the left shoulder by the angel of death from the the journey of Exelon, the teachings of Don Juan. The thing is that I like to do that when the bird is off the fist, out of the hood in the yard, or out in the field, but you're close enough to where you're not putting the bird at risk for being preyed upon by red tails or eagles or other hawks, because it is in a desperate state. It's in a very focused state, it's in a desperate state, and oftentimes it's a little bit weakened. It doesn't have its full motor. And so all of a sudden the bird realizes, I gotta go get that. Now if it's a wild hawk, not only does it have to go get that, but in order to eat that, it's got to tolerate you picking it up. And so you have to approach the bird and be able to pick it up. And so, but that's a
beginning.
That's a one-time or two-time lesson in the very beginning. I won't fly my hawks free in that type of condition.
Right. So in other words, this question or situation, life or death, it's not for the hawk which is already 500 feet, and then it doesn't kill and you just punish it because you go back to training again instead of conditioning.
Right. And that's, and I mean, that's another issue you bring up when you talk about, you know, the idea of reward and punishment. You know, I don't like to use the idea of rewarding a hawk. Every day the hawk should be fed well. Every day. The hawk should never be deprived of food for a long, long time. It should feel, especially when they're at lower weights.
Every flying day. Just to be strict because...
Well, right, every flying day. Every day they have the opportunity to catch and kill, chase, catch, and kill. Every day they have that opportunity. They should be fed well. And when they catch something, they should not be traded. You should not take a freshly caught pigeon, or a freshly caught pheasant, or a freshly caught duck, whatever you've provided for them, and trade them for a cold quail. They know quality of food, and they know quantity of food. And so when you take a bird that's caught a duck, and you rush in there real quick, and you rip the duck away and give them half of a quail, you start to develop adverse behaviors and an attitude the falcon doesn't trust you anymore. Because you're like the red tail that stole from them. You're like the American roughleg that stole from them. You're like every other bird that stole from them, and they never trust you. But if you let them feed on what they've killed, and then you have the presence of mind to be patient for 1 or 2, maybe 3 days.
To let them get empty?
To let them empty their gut. I mean, Latham talks about this. There was actually a great article, this last year. Peter Toot translated an article from a 1500 Spanish falconer about merlins. And he talked about chickens, and he talked about huns, and then he talked about herons. And a lot of people I talked to about the article, they just thought, they poo-hooed it. Because they thought, well, you know, this is bullshit. You know, you don't need a merlin to try to help kill a heron. But the real value in that translation was the way the Spanish falconer managed the falcon's gut. He didn't have a scale. He didn't have any way of measuring the bird other than through his feeding program. And he would fly the bird and have it kill something, and then he'd spend 2 or 3 days unseaming the bird, giving it washed meat, giving it good food, but it was going through the bird, it wasn't quite enough, and now the bird is empty again, it hasn't lost any weight, real important about don't lose any conditioning on the bird.
Right.
And then he'd show the bird another opportunity, and the bird would be successful, and then he could eat again.
So that's important, that the weight, if we even accept this idea of weight management, we have to understand that we're managing the weight or / volume of the gut, but not the weight of the developed muscle. Exactly. What you're not cutting the bird's physical. In the very beginning, you may have to cut a bird's physical. But that's to build the tolerance.
That's a very temporary thing.
To achieve tolerance.
To achieve tolerance and to achieve success with you as a partner.
Confidence.
Confidence,
But then
fidelity.
no, but when we, no, I think tolerance first, trust or confidence, then we heading to the next step, fidelity, and fidelity is when the bird is already high. It's been
Right,
tolerating, it's been confident it can kill. Now the bird is aerial.
Right.
We just not interfere. We just build in fidelity, and to build that fidelity, we're managing not the muscle value, not the fat, but the guts.
The gut and success.
And success is always the only tool to achieve that goal
Right.
is success.
Right, and once you get to a certain level, success can just be the opportunity itself to chase.
Otherwise, you can make a success to serve the bird, and you basically roll back to training immediately because the bird would be success to find in your pocket.
Right, right, and so that's the fine line, and that's why, I mean, you've seen over the last week, I never call my birds back.
Yeah, you never flush a pigeon to get her back into
No,
the
I
cold of
don't.
kill.
No, they will learn that. They're a cognitive animal. They will learn that you're the source, and because of the wind where they're flying, the air that they're flying.
You're not the source. You are the reference point where from the opportunity most often arises.
Okay, probably better said. The thing is that you are a focal point where things happen.
The X, Y reference
Right.
point.
Right. You're a reference point.
Right.
Because you don't want them looking in the bag. You don't want them coming back and looking down at you. And you haven't seen any of that from my birds. They never come back looking in the bag. You know. If anything, we're looking for them.
Yes.
You know.
As today.
Right. We look for them, you know. And when we find them and they're like maybe a half a mile away and maybe half a mile high, we try to serve them something they can catch. And like you saw on the sage-grouse flight the other day, things didn't work out real well. I let the dog go too soon. We got some bumps, but the falcon was way up there, but way out of position. And she still,
Yeah.
with a hissing sound that you heard, she still was able to command the situation. And so you allow the falcon to learn rather than teach. The person, the end of it, when you take a falcon in the field and you take a falconer in the field, you're not only allowing the falcon to learn, but the falconer has to learn.
Exactly. And
So they need to teach themselves how to fly the hawk, not teach the hawk how to satisfy them.
And as a result of that teaching, as at the beginning of the conversation, we agree that falconer depends on the condition, where, well, circumstances, geographical, whatever, decide what the height is going to be most successful and safe for the bird and situation. He basically, the only tool he used to build that fidelity and, in terms of this conversation, regulate the height of the flight is just to provide the opportunity at the height he wanted to achieve.
Right, I mean, things that will work well not only for himself, but for the falcon.
Correct.
See, I mean, the thing is that, and again, we'll talk a little bit about wind here, you know. You've watched my birds. This has been, at times, windy. 15, 16, 18 mile an hour winds. Pretty breezy conditions. And the birds fly great. Why? Because when they were young, when they were starting to fly, and it was a windy day, and they were 200 feet off the ground, maybe a quarter mile downwind, something was served they could catch. So they learned they could fly in the wind and be successful. and they didn't have to look to me. Something came up out there, and they got it because I use releasers, you know. And now they go into the wind, and it doesn't mean anything to them. They know how to handle the wind. And so many falconers would go, well, it's too windy. My bird won't fly in this kind of wind. Well, the reason it won't fly in that kind of wind is because it won't do the trick in that kind of wind. It's not a matter of doing the trick. It's a matter of being an aerial predator and letting them decide how to put the pieces together under the conditions that they're being flown.
Okay, so as far as after the birds start to range and nothing being served at a distance you wish to present an opportunity, the bird is used to already learn to go away, then it starts flying. So here basically physics for the bird is easier to find the thermal and start going up. For the bird it's easier to fly in a wider circle rather than to just to butterfly around you. It will naturally expand. So basically the growth of the height happens naturally. What we regulate is that based on the achieved confidence, we just regulate the height, needed height, by timing of presentation of opportunity.
Right. Well, the thing about it is this too. I mean, part of the problem that I see, and you see it with a lot of balloon and kite flyers, because they get their bird to go to an object maybe 800 feet high, 1,200 feet, 1,500 feet, 2,000 feet. I've used the balloon. I forget what year it was, but Dennis Crisco and Al Gardner and I, we screwed around with the balloon one whole season. And we had birds going up 5,000 measured feet.
But they were not flying 5,000 after that without a balloon. That was just...
No, well, I know they would fly that high without the balloon, but the thing is they wouldn't do it the same way.
Mm-hmm.
See, I mean, this idea of constantly pumping and never setting their wings it's an attitude the falconer has that doesn't match the reality of what the falcon will do. If you allow a falcon to fly, you will find that some falcons are just naturally more animated than others. Okay, just like you find some people are more physically athletic than others. It doesn't mean that the less animated falcon is lazy. That's not, I mean, it's like, they don't have that in their vocabulary. They don't want to be lazy. They just have a particular style. They don't want to be animated. They just have a particular style. Now, some falconers are so adamant that a bird have a particular style that they'll take a bird and say that it's not a very good bird because it's not animated enough. They'll call that bird lazy.
Well, excluding...
They say it's hard work. Well, birds of prey don't look at work and they don't look at lazy. They look at success.
Right, but the physical condition of the bird, we have not to forget that it determined not only by this original weight tolerance management, but sometimes everything could go as we just described, and then boom, something changed and the bird not flying as it used to be, and we never have to exclude the possibility of physical conditions which could be...
Well, that's the misunderstood beauty of the kite and the balloon. The misunderstood beauty of the kite and the balloon is a lot of people think that the kite and the balloon teaches the hawk to go up.
Well, it's conditioning them to be able to go up.
Exactly. The kite and the balloon, if a bird is well fed and well managed on the kite and the balloon, what the falconer achieves is a bird that's in the great capable condition of going up, and therefore it does. See, and the thing is that a bird that, like a hybrid tiercel that goes up because it can, will. a hybrid tier. So, see, the truth of the matter is that if teaching them to the balloon makes them go up, then all birds would go up that are conditioned to the balloon. But all birds don't. And the reason all birds don't is because the falconer mismanages the bird along the way. Learning how to develop a bird's condition, not only physically, but mentally.
Right.
You know? And so, and each species of bird is willing or not willing, because of its own genetic makeup, to do a particular thing. Peregrines are notoriously hard to train, but they're very easy to fly. You know, where hybrids are very easy to train, but if you take them out and just let them go fly, they don't seem to want to go fly that much. They want an object to go to. Gyrfalcons are like that. They like to have an object to go to.
Yeah, they will sit on your car.
They will sit until they see an object to go to. And that's because basically most birds of prey are birds of pursuit. And even young peregrines are birds of pursuit. But the genetic development and the maturation of a peregrine is for them to climb to the sky, to hide in the sky, and to be the unseen assassin from a great distance away. And if you allow that, even in confined areas, you'll find birds that can fly very, very well at greater heights than you expected to train them at, because you've allowed them to develop their own genetic potential.
But as far as physical condition, health, diseases is also like affect the bird, and as you mentioned in the situation when your bird all of a sudden stop flying, start sitting, so falconers have to probably always keep that thing in mind as well, that oh, she's not heavier or too light, nothing could change in the weight, maybe she could be perfectly empty, but that's probably the moment to ask veterinarian a question, or another falconer what else could happen to the bird.
Right. I mean, the thing about it is that, and this is, you know, when I wrote the book, the single most important chapter in the book, in my mind, is one page, about 8 lines. It's a chapter on trust. You know, these birds leave the fist when they're hungry, when their gut's right. They leave the fist, trusting that an opportunity will occur, and that you may be in approximate relationship with that opportunity. Not necessarily looking in the bag for you to feed them,
Yeah,
but they're paying attention.
reference point.
You're a reference point. And so they leave with that trust. What happens with a lot of falconers is they don't trust the hawk. And so one day your bird's flying perfectly fine. I had a falconer, I told you the story earlier, I had a falconer tell me one day he flew his hybrid that went up about 300 or 400 feet and wouldn't go any higher. And so he called the bird down and he pimped the bird, you know, called it to the lure, gave it a little bit to eat, put the hood on it. He was kind of frustrated with the situation. So then he takes out his intermewed passage tundra, good flying bird, and then went up 300 or 400 feet, maybe 500 feet, but wouldn't go any higher. And so he was frustrated, and he called the bird down. Again, pimped the bird a little bit, because now he's going to teach those birds a lesson. And so he takes the bird to an area, he puts up his kite, because he's going to make him go to the kite. He's going to make him go up 1,000 feet to the kite, because by God, well, his kite gets up to 300 or 400 feet, 500 feet, and all of a sudden the kite is in a severe shear wind, and it just starts ripping out the line, and he starts breaking the line, and the kite breaks and folds and willows to the ground. He didn't trust that his hawks, that are very good flying hawks, that particular day, were not in a situation where they could perform. And so he wanted to punish them. And why did he want to punish them? Because he also has the idea that he will reward them if they do well. Reward and punishment are inseparable. It's like if I say some do, then we automatically assume that some don't. So if the bird does well and I give him a good reward, then if the bird doesn't do well that day, when we calm down, we have to punish them a little bit by giving them less. When every day the bird should be fed well.
And nothing wrong to your falcon, which already achieved, let's say, 1,000 feet height in a such windy day, to fly 50 feet above the ground and catch that pigeon. So what? Was it a bad flight? No. The falcon just applied skills in current conditions.
Right. You're within 6 or 8 feet of the ground maximum. I mean, myself, I'm like 5 feet 9 inches from the ground, you know. But I don't know what it's like 300 feet off the ground. I don't know what it's like 1,000 feet off the ground. I definitely don't know what it's like at 2,000 and 3,000 feet off the ground. And I noticed that over the years, when I've done ballooning, on a perfect, what appears to be a perfectly still day, and that balloon is directly over your head, the stream goes this way, and then the stream goes that way, and then the string goes back and goes this way, and then it goes up to the balloon. And that tells me that at this height, the wind is blowing like this. And at this height, the wind is going this way. And then at that height, the wind is going this way. So, what's upwind and downwind? I mean, just because the wind is in your face doesn't mean that at 800 feet or 1,000 feet over the ground, the wind isn't behind your back.
So in other
or
words,
from your left.
In other words, trust your bird.
Trust your bird.
And watch.
That the bird's trusting you. You know?
Okay, so in other words, the perfectly flying hawk is the hawk which is flying at the height which provides consistent success under current conditions in a situation of mutual trust between falconer and the bird.
It's a partnership.
Yeah.
It's a partnership. And the thing is that if your conditions where you fly your game require you to fly birds less high than your falconer friend, it doesn't mean your bird's less of a bird. It doesn't mean that you're less of a falconer. It just means these are the conditions in which you're trying to fly your hawk to have a successful season with your bird. I mean, if I fly my hawks, you know, like you suggested the other day, we had an opportunity for a snipe flight. Well, I haven't. I've never flown snipe, you know. I've got good buddies that have flown snipe. Now, is 800 feet good for a snipe? Is 1,000 feet good for a snipe? 400 feet good for a snipe? Is dead overhead good for a snipe? Is out of position good for a snipe? Only after I've tried to fly snipe for a season or two will I know how to fly snipe. And only after the bird that I'm trying to fly at snipe has flown with me over a season or two will that bird teach me how to fly snipe.
Yeah, how she can be the most successful.
Right. I mean, it's one of those types of things, it's like, you know, we were talking about Kung Fu. Perfect. You know, well done. Well, a long time ago, I decided that I'm the grasshopper, the falcon's the sensei. You know, the falcon's got 25 million years of evolution. I may be on the planet 70 or 80 years. So my best gamble
is to trust
the falcon. And to learn from the falcon so that the falcon and I can achieve Kung Fu. That we can achieve that perfect relationship between man and hawk so that quarry can be taken by that falcon on a routine basis. Because that's, see, all the falcon's really trying to do is survive. And once you get the bird past survival, then the falcon starts to get into achievement. You know, wild hawks do not respond to survival weights. They don't go there anymore.
Yeah, they've been. We know that 7 out of 10 they don't make through their first year.
Right.
So
the 3 out of 10 that do make it through their first year, they don't wait for a certain time of day. They don't wait for a certain weight. They wait for that opportunity, and that goes right back to off the fist, out of the hood, where instead of the bird looking at the fist and looking at you, they start hunting, and when that opportunity comes up, boom, and first serve's a kill, boom. It doesn't make any difference where they are. First serve's a kill, boom. And they really realize that opportunity is to be taken. And then they get a really good meal. They're not ripped off. They're not traded. The falconer goes home and he's patient. Is it a day, 2 days, 3 days? Whatever it takes for that bird to start emptying itself out. And they get back down to that zone of weight that you know that they're empty now.
yeah.
Not skinnier, but empty.
In other words, imagine, well, the falconer has for a moment to place him in a, you need a lighter?
I'm going to get a lighter and I'm going to get a little more whiskey. So we'll just give ourselves a break here.
I was saying, I was to say that at a certain moment that passionate falconer has to put him into the shoes of someone who's been trained, let's say, to run 5 miles for X number of minutes, and he achieved the goal today, and the teacher says, you know, you have to do 5 miles tomorrow. He said, well, I'm kind of had my meal yet. I can't make it 5 miles tomorrow. So next thing was this falconer, which was by this magic transformed into the bird, well, to a sprinter, noticed that after next 5 mile run, he's not getting his meal. Instead, he's getting just a little bit of, you know, half of a sandwich, and been told again that tomorrow he has to run again 5 miles. What's gonna happen? He will just quit this training. He would start to hate his teacher.
It's not even that they quit; it's that they just can't do it.
And yeah, and
I mean, if you look at athletes, you look at Michael Phelps, 8 gold medals in the Olympics. I think twice. I mean, I didn't keep exact records of what he did the 2 Olympics he's been in, but at least 8 gold medals in the Olympics, and maybe 7 the second time, I don't remember. But he eats about 6,000 to 8,000 calories a day. Now, no coach worth his salt would tell Michael Phelps, you know what, tomorrow skip a meal.
yeah, you will be lighter and do better.
Yeah, Seabiscuit, one of the best racehorses ever in the history of the sport, was a hay burner. That's what they call him. He's a hay burner. He out-ate every other horse. She was actually a small mare, but she out-ate every other horse on the race course, and no time ever did they think about starving her back.
To run better.
To run better. Nobody that runs their dogs to find grouse will starve their dog today so he'll run better tomorrow. Only falconers have that mindset.
Some of them at least.
Yeah, some of them at least. And really what it amounts to is they need to be well fed. That's why I say the idea of reward always carries with it the idea of punishment. But a bird should be fed well every time it's flown. And when they're fed well this is really kind of important, because if they're fed well every time they're flown, then if they're too heavy and you decide to cut back on their food, they don't mind. They don't get pissy with you. They don't bait away from the hood. They don't give you a bunch of crap about jumping around or screaming. No.
Yeah, because they still have reserves.
They still have reserves, and you haven't been ripping them off every day. You know, fly your bird for the next time. It's like we talked about today. We got done flying today. We took a little route. We did this. We did that. What are we doing? Well, we're looking for the next time. We're looking for tomorrow. See? And so it's like, but every falconer just, they want it right now. You know? And the old falconers, if you really read between the lines in the literature, they had several hawks. They talked about a bird being ready for the field. They didn't talk about weight. They didn't talk about any particulars. They said ready for the field. What does that mean? Does that mean 1 day, 2 days?
It's when it's ready.
It's when it's ready. Right. And so a lot of falconers, I mean, it's part of the problem with North American falconry, is we think good falconry is about catching the most amount of game. And I don't think that's what good falconry is about. That's good hunting. That's good catching. But is that the best falcon management? Is that the best management for a Harris's hawk? Is that the best management for a Cooper's hawk? Or is catching and being fed well the best management? And that's a discussion that'll go on, I think, for a long time, because
Right, because it's all about, you know, if falconer's mindset is to kill a duck, bunny, or whatever, then there's no point to talk about trust, fidelity, whatever. As long as he achieves what he's doing with the hawk, he cares less what hawk think about him.
exactly.
He's just killing the prey.
Well, see, and that's been a hard selling point when you talk about this type of stuff, because basically what you're talking about is what's the philosophy and what's the reality. And if a guy is achieving his goal,
He's happy?
why should he change?
Right, right. So the
But the
beginning,
thing is that that's like, and I don't mean to be crude, but that's like being able to have sex every night with your woman, regardless of her,
desire.
desire of her pleasure in the act, desire of her relationship. It's like making your children obey all the rules without considering their interpretation of the rules. You know, every day we have the opportunity to learn, or every day we have the opportunity to dictate.
Right. So, well, we probably had to emphasize at the beginning of this conversation that all we just been going through is for the people who really sure that they are getting most of the pleasure of flying the bird, but not using the bird to kill something. Because otherwise, this discussion is pointless. You can train your hawk to go and kill this duck, and well, if you're happy with that, then just good luck.
Well, I mean, the thing about it, it's kind of like a sniper rifle, okay? You can have the best sniper rifle. You can have the best scope. But until you train yourself about how to use that rifle, and how to breathe, and how to meditate, and how to see the projection of that bullet over space, until you can train yourself that, you'll never be a good sniper. You just have the fucking rifle. See? And so when you have an avian predator, the goal isn't to teach the predator, it's to teach yourself. How do I manage this bird? What type of husbandry? What type of relationship? You know, how do I mean, it's like we talked about today, we saw different sets, and I says, well, I don't like that set. Why? Well, it's a young bird, it's a curvy little creek, An older bird might do well on it, but a young bird's not going to do that well on it. You've got to make decisions about how you're going to do things. It's just like if you have a sniper rifle and you're really good at shooting in dead wind, then the next step is shooting with a breeze. The next step is like you're elevated or you're below, calculating the drop, it's all about teaching yourself how to use this great weapon that you've got.
So in other words, you're learning to present an opportunity in the best way to let your bird continue going with the confidence.
First serves a kill.
Right.
That's the best opportunity. Now, having said that, my favorite falconry is to develop a bird, once they've got that down, to go past that.
Which is?
First serves not a kill.
Yeah.
And then you flush the pond softly so you got more ducks. You got the dog on point, you got one little flush, you and the dog retreat, and now you have 20, 30, 40 minutes, maybe an hour of flying, 2 or 3 different flights.
So that the bird learn how to kill when it's a first powerful, or maybe 5th attempt when she's already getting exhausted, or situation changed, or position had changed, so she is trying herself in all these situations and getting more and more experience.
Well, also flying a bird when you know the gut's still a little full.
Yeah, that's another thing.
And the fidelity factor's been developed. And we're not talking about, there's no difference between a 400-foot hawk and a 4,000-foot hawk. If you have a situation where you can expand the opportunity, because the birds love to chase. They love dominating, quarrying, putting it in. We see it all the time in the wild, And so if you get 3 or 4 flushes and it finally ends up in a kill, good. If it's 3 or 4 flushes, doesn't end up in a kill that day, that's fine. You bring the bird down, give it a good meal. It's like Michael Phelps. Great day today, go eat your 6,000 calories. It's one of the tragedies, I think, in American falconry is that we really have come down to a numbers game where it's the greatest amount. There's 2 things that people focus on: the greatest amount of game taken and how high the bird flies. And neither one of those 2 really mean anything.
Well, at least for us.
At least for us. But, you spent the last week out here, and the thing is, it's like, when you get out into the areas that we fly in, why not let them go up?
Right, and
why not serve them way out of position and watch the across the sky flight?
right, but going back to my birds in New York, I'm not going to be copying you there.
You can't.
Well, I can, but it would be silly because
Right.
I will achieve nothing.
Right.
Again, we're not going with a sniper rifle to hunt ducks.
Right. You don't need a sniper rifle to shoot something 20 feet away. And so, but the thing is that I think there's several things that I think people misunderstand about my attempt to share my ideas, is that they think that I have the attitude that my ideas are the best ideas. They're not the best ideas, it's just their ideas.
Yeah, the most important, I believe, thing, if we're going back to your recently published book, is just to tell people that, just to provide an example of how to search for answers.
Exactly.
Your book is not an answer.
It's not an answer.
And as we discussed one time, and we kind of agree about the thing that don't read the book, read the bird.
Exactly. Don't read the book, read the bird. The bird is really the thing that'll tell you where you're going. And I think I talked to you before, one of the problems that we have in traditional falconry is the idea that, one, Conrad Lorenz taught us about imprinting. 2, Pavlov taught us about operant conditioning. And 3, we have this thing called the scale. And the truth is that that's all really good information,
But it's not an answer.
but it's not the answer. I look at the scale as kind of like a GPS. It tells me where I'm at, but it doesn't tell me where I'm going.
Yes.
You know, the bird tells me where I'm going. And I know if I've overextended or if I've if I've undermined the bird, you know. It's like RW tonight when we flew at those ducks. To me, the greatest thing that I saw today in that flight, even though she didn't kill the duck, the greatest thing that I saw in that flight was that, like I told you earlier, she spent all of her time upwind. She went into the wind and she climbed into the wind and she was serious. And then when we got the ducks up, I don't know really because we lost sight of her, but when she came down on those ducks, she was whipping those wings and cutting through those ducks and chasing those ducks. She acted like she was serious. So the fact that she was upwind, flying well, going very high, high enough to where she wasn't able to be seen, and then coming down hard like that, even though it didn't end in success, it lets me know that these upper weights for her, which I've always thought she was maybe a little too low, these upper weights are a better performance weight for her. And I like to use terms like tolerance weight and performance weight rather than training weight. Because what happens is we get stuck at training weight. When the bird first starts to tolerate us, we think, oh, okay, that's the bird's training weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When that's just a starting point.
Replicate it into flying.
And you see birds that are 3 years old
Still at that weight.
that are still at training weight.
And then we wonder why it goes and sit instead of flying.
We wonder why they go sit instead of fly, or why they continue to have bad manners, or why they continue to try to carry food away from us. You know, we haven't offered them. You know, if you go out and trap a prairie falcon in January, they're 31 ounces. Why isn't your prairie falcon flying at 31 ounces in January instead of 26 and a half? Well, because 26 and a half was a training weight last fall. You know, and so it's one of those weird deals that we trap ourselves into.
Right. Okay, thanks.